So tonight's presentation is something a little different for us and a little bit different in general for a cookbook presentation. We have Marilynn Carter here with us, and she is the author of No Fret Cooking, which is a healthy cookbook. Yep. And you see we also have her husband Steve here with us, and Steve is a jazz guitarist, and he composed and arranged and performed 22 songs over 2 CDs, Music to Cook By and Music to Dine By, that are included with the cookbook. So while Marilynn is giving her presentation, Steve will also be performing some selections from the CDs. So that sounds really fun, and we're excited to have you both here. And I'm going to pass things over to Marilynn now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having us here at the Berwick Library. We're happy to be here, happy to see you all, and thanks for coming out. It's a messy evening, so we appreciate that. This is my cookbook, No Fret Cooking. I'm a holistic health practitioner at Many Paths for Health, and I started my journey for writing the cookbook because of my own health issues. I had a lot of allergies and tried a lot of different foods and totally changed my diet around. And at the end of my journey, I decided I wanted to share what I'd learned with people, and so I decided on doing a cookbook. And then the name came up, No Fret Cooking. My husband has a fretless guitar. That's kind of how the name came about, but also that we didn't want people to have to stress over cooking. Most of the recipes are fairly simple, fairly easy. There's a few that are challenging for those that like a little more of a challenge, but they're all very healthy and lots of alternative ingredients. So for tonight, Steve is going to play some more music. I have a little PowerPoint presentation for you to kind of give you an idea of the book and my philosophy, and then you can feel free at any point to ask questions if you like. I have a few food samples out there for you, and Steve will play some more music. So a little bit, and we'll just get started with the next slide. So I consider food to be a path to health and wellness. In No Fret Cooking, it blends simple, healthy, yummy recipes that are accompanied by music to cook by and music to dine by. When I was about 3/4 of the way through the cookbook, I said to my husband, you know, I think we need to have some music to go with the cookbook, because whenever I cook, he always played music for me over all the years. And I was like, gee, I would like to share that with people. So he rose to the challenge. He likes to play music. He likes to write music and create. So he got a CD ready, and that was Music to Cook By. And then he was almost ready, and I said, well, you know, I think we really need another CD to go with the cookbook, Music to Dine By, so people can relax and enjoy the music after they've done the cooking. Then they can just sit back and relax. So I said to him, okay, so I'm done, but you've got to hurry up because I'm ready to go. So I put the pressure on him, and he rallied. He came forth, and 2 lovely CDs. We know a lot of people who use them at their cocktail parties. I even heard one person said that they play it when they leave the house for their dog. The dog loves the music. So we're happy to please everyone. And so this cookbook, I like to think of it as if you had only one cookbook, this would be it, because there's something for everyone. There's a lot of vegetarian, there's vegan, a lot of gluten-free, there is some meat, but not a lot, some poultry, and I'll go through it a little bit more, but there's one recipe in particular, because my husband doesn't do any meat, and I would do just a tiny bit. And so I made the recipe so that it could easily be adapted for vegetarian or meat. I might have used 2 pots, but so that's part of it. So the book is kind of like a guide, and I give lots of suggestions, and if you don't want to use those suggestions, that's fine. You can use your own ingredients, but it still works whether you use the ingredients that I've used or not. So I like people to bring their own creativity in and personalize their recipes. And it's interesting, we've done a few dinner events, and people have made some of the recipes from the cookbook, and they taste the same, but they might have a little bit different presentation. And it's great to see them adding a little bit of different either spices or something to add their own flair to it. So that's been fun. So Hippocrates, the father of medicine, 2,500 years ago, his famous quote, and I have that in my book, I love this quote, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." I mean, today everyone's talking about healthy food and how we can heal ourselves by eating healthy food. So he had the idea right all those years ago. In No Fret Cooking, there's over 200 recipes. There are little mini chapters. The chapters include why you might want to eat organically, seasonal eating, alternative flours. I use a lot of varied flours like brown rice flour, kmet flour, some millet flour, brown rice flour, oat flour, and there are the little paragraphs that tell you all about the different flours, so you kind of get an idea if you want to purchase that flour or not. And most of them don't really change the recipe at all. They actually enhance it. There's a chapter on grains and legumes, one on herbs and spices, and then I have a section with the alternative ingredients that I've used, and most of them can easily be found at your supermarket. And there's another section on nuts and seeds, and then different sources for some products that I've gotten from, say, mail order. Like I tend to get my herbs at Mountain Rose. It's a mail order herb company. All their herbs are organic, and they tell you the country of origin, and you can buy them in small amounts or larger amounts. The only thing is their shipping is a tad expensive, so I like to do a big order at once or have some friends share the order with me, and then we share the shipping. So some healthy eating suggestions. Eat fresh, clean food, eating in season and local, eating organic. The number 9, if everyone's noticed on food, you see a little code number. If you see something that starts with a 9, that indicates it's organic. If it starts with a 4, that indicates it's conventionally grown. So even if it doesn't say organic, if you see the number starting with 9 on the code, then that's an example of an organic ingredient. And usually there are 5 numbers in those codes and 4 on the conventional, traditional. I usually follow the guidelines for the Dirty Dozen Plus. Is anyone familiar with Environmental Working Group? Environmental? Yeah. So what the Dirty Dozen Plus is those that have the most pesticides. So those ingredients are ones that you probably would want to get organic. I know organic tends to be a little bit more expensive, but in the long run I feel it's worth the money. It tends to last longer, and it's a little bit healthier for you. The Clean 15 are those ingredients that you don't necessarily have to get organic. They're more those that have tougher skins. I do have little cards here if anyone wants to look at them after to get an idea of which ones are on the list. You can feel free to come up and look at them. Eating non-GMO, and there's a non-GMO It's a good place to go if you want to get an idea of which ingredients might be genetically modified. Eating the colors of the rainbow. And the rainbow is beautiful, and when we add color to our food, it looks beautiful, has more antioxidants, and it makes us happy, and we want to eat more. So I love to incorporate color in my food, and I like a variety of food, a variety of flavors, bitter, sweet, salty, pungent, spicy, and tart. I recommend not using artificial colors. You can make real colors so easily. You can use like spinach for green. It won't change the flavor any. The cupcakes over there, they actually were colored with blended beets. That's you can also do red cabbage. That would make sort of a purpley color. Turmeric for yellow. So we don't really have to get the artificial colors anymore. We can color things with our food naturally. And the same with flavors. You want to have real flavors, not artificial flavors, nothing with preservatives. And the big thing is know what's in your food. It's important to read your labels and ask questions if you're not sure. Recently a friend of mine who just turned vegan, she got what she thought was a vegan cheese, and she thought because it said vegan it was okay, and she made it and she didn't read the label, and right on there it was something she was allergic to. So we can we can save ourselves that hassle if we do look. And I know it takes time, but once you get used to it or you know which ones you can buy, then it's a lot easier. Cooking tips. So cooking from scratch. When you cook from scratch, your food will look better, it will taste better, it'll be more nutritious. It's fun to cook from scratch and to create. Try not to use too much fat-free or processed foods. Those have been altered, and they're not as good for you as those that are like whole milk or whole fat cheese. I use, as I mentioned, a variety of flours, and I don't use white flour at all anymore. It doesn't have any nutrition. And what you can do, if you're going to have a lot of flours like I do, I might have like 6, 7 different kinds of flours in my house. I keep them either in the refrigerator or I put them in the freezer. Now when you put them in the freezer, they don't freeze and they're just as fresh, but they last longer. So if you're not going to use, say millet for like a month or two, toss it in the freezer and just take out what you need at the time. So we're going to go over this after, but making your own nut milk, and I have a sample out there for you. It's macadamia nut milk. You can make your own colorings, as I mentioned, your own condiments, and your own vanilla, and we'll go over that in a little bit. Vibrational cooking is when we energize our food with love and with care. We cook with mindfulness and with gratitude for the harvest that we have and the good food. When we cook vibrationally, we're using all our senses. We're using our hands to work and to feel with it, and our nose, we can smell when things are cooking, and we can hear things. One of the recipes that Steve has a song for, and he might tell a story, actually has a popping sound to it, and we created that after he did the song, so I'll let him tell you that story. So yeah, cooking is great, to use all your senses, and most important, to enjoy the process. For me, it's my relaxation, it's my meditation, it's how I get to zone down at the end of the day. And cooking in season, so we have all these farmers markets now, and they're just loaded with, great vegetables and herbs and things. When we cook in season, we know that it's fresh, it hasn't been carted from a long distance, and that's healthier too. You're getting it whole, as opposed to in the supermarket when you're getting food cut up in bags. That's already started to lose some of its nutrients because it's been exposed to the air. So it's better to have things in the full natural process. Vibrational cooking, you're empowering yourself, and you get to use your intuition. Have fun with it, tweak it, explore, create. What do you like to do with your food to make it yummy and beautiful? So the benefits, you'll know what's in your food, you'll feel better, you'll be supporting your health, and you'll be supporting the environment. I have in the book also a chapter on Chinese medicine. It's a small chapter, and that follows the law of the 5 elements. It's been verified and used for hundreds of years, and it's how we relate to the changing seasons. So in Chinese medicine, they have 5 seasons: summer, late summer, fall, winter, and spring. So we're still in fall, almost getting ready to shift into winter, sadly, but I'm sure lots of you like winter. I like to be warm, but so I kind of tailored one of our dishes there for you for this season. So like the seasons, we too are constantly changing, and we use a balance of 5 flavors in the diet. It helps the body to stay in harmony and to function optimally. So here we are, fall, and the flavor is pungent or spicy, and the organs for fall are our lungs and our large intestine. So that we want to give extra support to those organs right now, the wind and the cold. It's a good time for a cleanse. The fall and spring are the best times for a cleanse, and it's helpful to increase your cleansing foods like pumpkin, squash, sweet potato, beets, apples, dark leaf vegetables, onions, garlic. It's a time to get more rest, to take time to reflect, to be open and to grow and to adapt to the changes. Take time to process our food, our thoughts, and our emotions. and eating less cold foods and adding in more warming foods like stews and soups, hot porridges and steamed vegetables and fruits. They'll be much more warming for our body. So here we have a recipe for making organic vanilla. Has anyone made their own vanilla? Yay. Nice. Okay. So for making your own vanilla, all you need is a jar, such as this one, that will hold a vanilla bean lengthwise. And all you need to do is to take 3 vanilla beans, slice them lengthways from top to bottom with a sharp knife, and then add either vodka, brandy, bourbon, rum, whatever alcohol that you like. The darker ones are a little bit richer. Like vodka is a little bit lighter. I tend to use brandy. This one here was made with Madagascar vanilla beans and brandy. And I started it in 2013, and it takes about 8 weeks. You could do it in 6, but if you wait till 8 weeks, it's nice. You put it in a dark cupboard, and you kind of shake it every couple of days. And the inside the beans, they'll just kind of open up a bit from the moisture, and they'll infuse the alcohol. And it's the best, most delicious vanilla. And you know it's real, because most of the vanilla, unless you get organic, which has gone way high in price now, isn't necessarily real. It's kind of synthetic. So this is an example of a vanilla bean that I got from a health food store. You can, actually this one I got from a cooking shop, but you can get them in health food stores. Unfortunately, I heard recently, though, that the cost of vanilla beans, I'm not sure what's happening to their crop, that it has skyrocketed compared to what it used to be. But I still believe you will save in the long run because you just keep using your bottle. So as I pour out a teaspoon to add to a cake or whatever I'm using it for, then I'll just add a little bit more of the alcohol to it. So I just keep refilling it. And this will last you for years. My last bottle I threw out after 5 years only because I thought I should. But it was still smelled delicious. It was still great. So I don't know. I think I'm going to let this one go a little longer before I make some more. So you can feel free to come look at those after if you want. And then making your own nut milk. Has anyone ever done that? No. Good. Fun. Okay, so it's really easy. It's simple. I don't drink milk. My husband doesn't drink milk, so it was rare if we ever used milk, and then I bought it and I would just throw it out, and then it was like, okay, I'll get some almond milk or something. The same thing happened. You know, I spent a lot of money on it and wind up throwing it out because I don't use it very much. So I just decided I'm going to start making my own milk, and it's super easy. We have macadamia nut milk there, which is the easiest one to do because you don't need to soak the nuts. 1/4 cup of nuts into a cup of water in your blender. Blend it up until it's nicely finely ground. If your blender isn't as great, I recently got a new Cuisinart, thought it was great. Not. It takes a lot longer, and I wind up having to strain my milk, but whatever. It's okay. It's just not great. But anyway, so you take your nuts. I usually put them in first to kind of get them ground up a little bit, and then I add the cup of water, and I turn the blender on, and I blend that 30 seconds, a minute, whatever. Depends on your blender how good it is. And then the milk is ready. It's as easy as that for macadamia. If you're going to use like other nuts, especially like almonds, you're going to want to soak them overnight because that helps to get rid of the phytic acid, so it's easier to digest. You could do it with almost any type of nuts, but all the others except for macadamia, you're going to want to soak them a little bit, and then you're going to strain the water out in the morning. You can rinse them off and then lay them out to dry, and then you can use them in your blender. You can also make milk from coconut flakes. That's a really good one. I like to do that the same way in the blender, just add 1/4 cup. And you can also do oat milk the same way, just fresh oats, grind them up, add some water, and make oat milk. The milk I have there is not sweetened, but if you like sweetened, you can always add a little bit of honey or a little bit of maple syrup to the milk to give it some flavoring. For me, where I mostly just use it in smoothies or cooking, I don't need the sweetener. But if you like to have, some milk with some cereal or something, you might want some, or just add some fresh fruit. Yeah. And then we like to set the mood. We like to listen to music while we cook. It fills us with joy through the creating process. We can feel the gratitude for the bounty that we have of this healthy food that Mother Nature provided us. Helps to release daily stress, nourishes, harmonizes, balances, and energizes us. And most important, no fret. Cooking should be fun, not fretful. So enjoy. And that's the end of this part. And I'm going to turn it over to my husband for a few minutes to play some music and talk a little bit about some of the music and how it came to be.
Well, when Marilynn is cooking, for years I've always had a little amplifier in the living room and I would play music while she's cooking. And if things are not going so well and pots are boiling over and she's getting a little frantic, or play something really slow, calming. On the other hand, if she's going too slow and I'm getting hungry, I'll play something up tempo. When she started writing the cookbook, I wanted to write all original music for two reasons. One, it's fun to do, but the other is that way I didn't have to pay royalties to composers of other songs. So I started writing the music, and I wanted all of the music to somehow be related to food. Some of the songs are actually based on recipes, and some of the recipes are sort of based on songs. For example, our daughter makes asparagus, grills it, and one time she added capers to it. So now we have asparagus with capers, very very tasty. So Marilynn said, "Well, I need a name for the recipe." So I said, "Let's see, how about the Great Asparagus Caper?" So I composed a piece of the Great Asparagus Caper. I recorded everything in my home studio, and I played multiple guitar parts and bass parts, but I also used synthesized. I composed parts for flute and strings and percussion and so forth, and used a synthesizer to make the background music. So only some of them can I actually play solo guitar. The others you'll have to listen to the CDs to hear them. But the recipe that Marilynn was talking about was pepper poppers. They're peppers that are baked in the oven, and so I came up with the idea of pepper poppers, and I wrote some music, and I scored it for several guitars and bass and 2 sets of drums, and I put each drum on a different speaker in the stereo setup, and they have kind of in the middle of the song they have kind of a battle of the drums. They trade licks back and forth, and the sound bounces between the speakers. So I played when I finished recording it, I played it for Marilynn, and she said, "I need to make my pepper poppers really pop." So next time she cooked them, she sprinkled some water on top of them, and so she puts them in the oven, and they pop. There's the one recipe that I cook is called Madagascar stew, and I did some research on Madagascar music and wrote something that sounds like Madagascar. There's another recipe she has in there, which is endive, wrapped around salmon, and there's some cream cheese on it, and once again capers. So she wanted a title for that, so I came up with Sam Endive, and that reminded me of Sam and Dave, which is a rhythm and blues group, but it also reminded me of the old detective, Sam Spade. So I wanted something that sounded kind of like detective music. Well, I remember when I was a kid, we used to hear. That was detective music. So I did a variation on that. So I wrote this piece called Sam I wrote the music for the music to cook by, mostly up-tempo, that sort of thing. And music to dine by is slower things, more relaxing. So the last song of the last CD of Music to Dine By, I wanted something that was comforting, so I took the idea of comfort food, and I wrote a piece where the melody was just based on the sound of comfort food. It sounds like comfort food, doesn't it? Okay, so that's going to go all the way through the song. And I wanted to set myself a challenge. I wanted it to be very relaxing music, but I wanted it to be challenging for me musically. So as you may know, in most popular music, you stay in one key. You start in a key and you stay there and you come back there. You may go somewhere else, maybe to another key on the bridge of the song, the contrasting section. I play a lot of jazz songs and they'll go through several keys, but usually no more than 2 or 3 or 4. There are 12 keys in music, so I wanted my song to go through all 12 keys. I wanted it to start in the key of C and end in some other key. Because when you're traveling and you're away from home and you think of comfort food, you think of home. Well, that's the key of C where I started. When you come home from your trip, you're different and home is different. So you don't end up in the same key, you end up in a different key. And then on the bridge, which is the contrasting section, a bridge kind of goes like this. It goes up and down. So I wanted the bridge to do that. So I have an ascending melody and a descending bass line for the bridge. So I wanted to make all this happen, go through all 12 keys and keep the song simple and relaxing. So this is what I came up with for comfort food. So I'm going to play a little background like I do at home. I'll play a little background music and you can enjoy the food samples that are there and ask Marilynn questions and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Yeah, thanks. So I didn't put signs out for the food. In the chafing dish there are spinach balls and those are gluten-free. And the little cupcakes are chocolate surprise cupcakes. They have 3 kinds of organic chocolate, and they also have beets in them and some applesauce. And because I needed another container so one container wouldn't fall over in the car, there's a few banukis, and those are gluten-free, sugar-free, bananas and chocolate and some oil, and they're yummy. So anyway, feel free to enjoy, ask questions if you want. I'm here, listen to the music, and sample the milk. Just give it a shake before you take some of it, because it separates, you know, in a little. It's been sitting out for a little while, so enjoy. Thank you.
How long have you been eating this way?
15, 17 years. Yeah. I started because I had a lot of allergies, and I went on a rotation diet, and so then I had to stop eating almost everything. But then by the end of it, after 11 months, I could eat everything again. And I tend to vary my food, so I don't always have the same foods, because if you do that, you're less likely to become sensitive to something, especially if you have allergies. So yeah, I just started experimenting and trying all sorts of things. At first I thought, there's nothing I can eat, and I lost like 10 pounds. That, you know, there was no one that could help me at the time. And the books out weren't very good. So then I just started experimenting and trying things, and you know, it wasn't the internet like there is now that you can get recipes. They're not always. Some are good and some aren't. You have to try them all. But so most of the recipes are mine, but there are some from some friends and my daughter for things that I don't make, like meat. We both don't eat like red meat, so. But there is a chapter there because I wanted the book to be for everyone. You know, people, they tend to have like 20 cookbooks or something. Right. So in this one, you could go in and you could find something for each of your friends who are coming over. Yeah. So feel free, you know, look through the book and try some samples. Ask me any questions you want. And thank you all for coming. You're great. You're awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I don't mean to offend.
No.
You're as a practitioner, what function do you serve?
I'm mostly an energy practitioner. So I do, like in the hospitals, they offer Reiki. So I'm a Reiki master, and I teach Reiki. I also do Jinshin Jitsu, which is similar to acupuncture without needles. So it works on the meridians, on points on the body. So I do those, but I also, if somebody, you know, wants to talk about their diet or something, I mean, I'm not a licensed nutritionist or anything, but I can talk generally with them and go over what they're having, or environmentally. I have a lot of environmental allergies and issues, so I can give people suggestions on some safer things to use.